First real taste of what life could be like outside of Toledo when I was 16. Of course, I'd been beyond the city limits before, but this was the first time I got to go with a friend, a coworker of mine named Tony Song. Tony was the Korean version of Eddie Haskell. I happened to be staying with my father that night during a short-lived return to his house in hopes of reconciling our relationship. He had remarried for the fourth or fifth time, I don't actually know, to this beautiful Korean woman named Tong, who happened to be best friends with Tony Song's mother. Tony showed up and charmed the socks off of them. He acted like a good, studious Asian kid with impeccable manners, and my father was impressed. Tony said, "Khalil and I are going back to my house to study for a test." "Okay, Tony, you guys have a good time." I was completely baffled. First off, my father was letting me leave with a friend on a school night, unprecedented. But it was Tony, so I kind of understood. What still confused me was the fact that Tony and I didn't have any classes together. I didn't have a test coming up, and even if I did, I sure as hell wasn't studying for it. I was a straight D student who only passed each grade because the teachers didn't want to deal with me again. When we got into his car, a BMW 525i, I said, "What are you talking about? What test?" Tony said, "Don't worry about it." He laughed and pulled out a flask. "Here." I drank it without hesitation. I don't know what it was, but it was harsh. Tony started driving, and we were so engrossed in talking and drinking that I didn't even notice we got onto the I-75 North. Eventually, I gathered my bearings and asked, "Dude, where the fuck are we going?" "Don't worry about it. Drink." 40 minutes later, we were in Detroit. Tony thought it was hilarious that I had no idea what was going on. We were driving down desolate, seemingly abandoned streets in downtown Detroit with empty buildings looming all around us and snow blowing everywhere. He finally parked. We walked through the snow into an alley between two big brick buildings. There weren't any signs or lights. All I could see was a bunch of people standing around talking and smoking. They all wore black clothes. Tony pushed through the crowd to a door. A huge guy was there checking IDs. I grabbed Tony. "I don't have a fake ID, man." Tony laughed again. I felt on the verge of a panic attack as we got closer to the massive doorman. As soon as it was our turn, he said, "How old are you guys?" 50, Tony said, as he slipped the doorman a $50 bill. "All right," he said, "go right ahead." I was still in awe when we walked inside and went down into the basement of this dark, ominous building. The cellar was a big open space with clouds of smoke swirling in the black light. It was so fucking cool. The music pounded against my chest. I had never heard the song before, but it mesmerized me. It resonated with every cell in my body. This was real music, not the garbage they played on WIOT in Toledo. Journey, REO Speedwagon, Foreigner. I never understood what the fuck those bands were talking about anyway, and I didn't care. In that moment, I was reborn, unafraid and liberated. The words were sung, so I didn't have to say them. It was Ian Curtis who had died for my sins, not Jesus Christ. I always figured I'd burn in hell, but at least now I knew I'd have company. In that dark, abandoned basement on that night, and many others like it, my life was saved, but this time in a much more profound way. I discovered music. The Cure, Sisters of Mercy, The Smiths, Front 242, The Cult, Communards. I listened with complete strangers who were closer to me than anyone had ever been. They understood exactly who and what I was, and I knew them. The bands were singing the songs of my heart, my sorrow, my isolation, my story. A tremendous sense of relief flooded through me. It was baptism by fire. We stayed until the place closed down early the next morning. As Tony and I left, exhausted and glowing, I finally found out what the place was called. The Shelter. Of course. Over the next few years, I went there as often as I could, even more so after I dropped out of high school. After getting kicked out of St. John's, I wound up at a public high school called Bowser. I failed class after class, but because there had been a lot of other troubled kids there as well.